And number 3, 4, 5, continued. We're going to continue number 5. So we continued 2 and 5. So we got 1, 3, 4. Take number 1, please.
Item number 1 is a report from the mayor, controller, and city administrative officer, chief legislative analyst, and information technology relative to the financial management system project approach and contract negotiations and related staffing. This matter was heard by the ITGS Committee and Budget Finance Committee in a joint committee, and they concur with the recommendations of the Oversight Committee.
Who's here for this matter? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mark Wolf with ITA.
Rushmore Cervantes with the City Controller's Office.
And the ITA and the controller both agree.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Project's $51.5 million.
That's the estimate of
Has
the,
already been appropriated.
not all of it. We have approximately $7.3 million in MICLA monies to be able to provide most of the debt for, or service the debt for the contractor, as well as funds that have been allocated for salaries. Excuse me, let me take that back. $15 million in MICLA monies have been set aside for the contract. Another $7.3 million in general fund monies have been set aside for salaries for this project.
Okay, so the biggest issue is the allocation of dollars. That's been resolved. And this system's old, out of date,
Correct.
inefficient, 21 years, 21-year-old accounting and financial system.
That's correct.
So let's see, 21 years ago. Didn't have cell phones, didn't have the internet,
No email.
no email. Long time ago. We've had that same system for that length of time.
That is correct.
And when I met with the controller and the IT general manager, we discussed this wouldn't end up like the school district with their financial situation and turn into a major disaster.
Eventually we would.
We've got our acts together on this one.
Right. And we're going to be doing it in several phases. The first phase is just the core financials. And then at some point, within another year to 2 years, then we'd have to make the decision thereafter what additional modules that we want to add to this system to make it a true enterprise resource planning system, which could include a new budget module as well as a new procurement system.
And this could be a smooth transition from the existing antiquated to the changeover.
Yes, that is the plan.
And has any other city used a similar system?
Absolutely. The LA County as well as Orange County.
They're using the system?
Well, Orange County is in its first year of implementing this project, and LA County has already implemented the core financials of this same system.
And it's working?
Yes, it is.
Because the key is to make it work. So in the event, or in the long run, it'll save us money, resources, and make it more efficient.
Absolutely. You'll have more information in a timely, efficient manner so you can make informed decisions.
Okay, Mr. Miller, what do you think about this?
I think it's a very good plan.
You stake your reputation on it?
Absolutely, sir. As does Gene Gibson.
As what?
Gene Gibson.
Where's Jim Gibson? Is she hiding? She's normally up here. She's hiding it? Lucy, you involved in this?
Yes. Best possible move you could possibly make.
Did you do the school district project?
No,
Okay.
nothing.
Yeah.
We'd be throwing you out. Okay, so I met with the controller and the manager of IT, and they're very, very supportive and want to make this work. It's taken a long time, 21 years to get to this point.
It certainly has.
And what's the projection of Parrish in the future, down the road, how many years?
Well, we anticipate that we'll be going live July 2010.
Okay.
So it's going to be basically close to 2 years. It's a very quick timeline. It's going to take tremendous amount of resources, both from the planning team as well as subject matter experts that are going to be drawn from the various departments throughout the city on a temporary basis to be able to try to get the best minds from each of the departments and their expertise so that we can actually make this a smooth transition.
And then how are we going to monitor to make sure it's going smooth?
Well, there's going to be an administrative oversight committee that's comprised of the mayor, council/CLA, and the CAO's office with ITA as its subject matter expert, if you will. And they're going to be overseeing this, and they very well could create, at their discretion, an oversight committee, which could include the controller and CAO's office as well. The project manager, we're actually recruiting right now, we're looking not only inside the city but outside the city. They'll run the entire operation, and they'll report directly to the AOC or the overall arching administrative committee, which is the three-headed mayor, CAO, and CLA.
And I know when the police department tried to implement their teams too, they had a lot of problems, tremendous amount of problems. And I think they had a vision, and reality didn't meet vision.
The thing that's going
They
to...
had the oversight necessary to make it work, but
The oversight's really important here, not only from that committee, but the overall support from the mayor and the council, because in past and what has made systems, and Mark can certainly address this better than I can, is that the problems that we've seen is that there's been too many modifications to off-the-shelf systems. So we're going through, looking at the business operations that the city has and determining which systems must remain in place. All else will have to be adapted to this new system so that when there are upgrades to the system, we have a system that can accept those upgrades. Because right now, we have many systems that we've modified it so much they cannot be maintained, and therefore we've got an obsolete system. The idea is to not change the system to accommodate our business practices, but rather change our business practices to mirror that of the system, which are based on best practices.
so if your car has a 17-inch wheel, you don't put a 14-inch tire on it,
Something to that effect,
which
yes.
is what we've done many times.
Many times over,
And you wonder why it doesn't work.
right.
Well, Lucy's getting hot there. Well, she's fanning herself.
I'm walking, okay? I walked over.
Oh, you did? Long walk. And June Gibson finally showed up. Thank you, June, for attending this meeting.
And I lost a seat up there, sir.
We were talking about you, and we were looking around, we didn't know where you were, so.
So you took the seat away, is that it?
Well, no, we didn't take a seat. Here, sit next to, you can be, Councilmember Parks.
We look so similar.
Okay, so, any other comments from anyone on this matter?
I was just up here to support my boss, Rush Cervantes.
Yeah, might bring it up. Go ahead.
One request, Councilman, that we'd like to make, ITA and Controller's Office, is to request a blanket unfreeze for the project team that will be staffing this project.
How many people is that?
It will be a grand total of 48 positions, which will be phased in over a 3-phase staffing plan. We have 5 positions existing in the city that will be staffing the plan. Then we'll be looking to hire an additional 15 new positions in early September, another 11 in January.
This is to put it together or to, once it's in operation?
This is to build the system. And then once the system would be online, then a major portion of those employees would be reassigned back into other city departments to retain that knowledge. And then there'll be a core team that will be left in place for the technical support and maintenance of the system.
Okay, how does that meet with the mayor's directive on, Tom, on hiring? I know we don't have a freeze, but we have concerns about budget. But the money's appropriated for those 48 positions?
That is correct.
Yes.
This report recommends exemption of the project team from the managed hiring process.
For the 48? Okay. All right, that's fine. We'll do that. But if you need any more, then you have to come back. So
Very good.
Work within your means, as they say. And good luck with the project, so we will recommend approval.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very
just
much.
for further point of clarification, is that the same as your recommendation number 7 of your oversight report that reads exempt all positions assigned to the FMS project from the managing hiring process? Is that this one in the same?
That is
Okay, then we would concur with the ITGS Committee and Budget and Finance Committee with that recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And 2, we already continued. Okay.
I'd-
Number 3?
Item number 3 is the city attorney report and ordinance relative to the amendment to the Los Angeles Administrative Code, setting forth the city's determination to provide a workplace free of discrimination in employment. City attorneys are here to report.
Number 3.
Good afternoon. Angel Manzano, City Attorney's Office. With me is Alejandrina Vasquez of the Personnel Department and Robert Tyson of Bannon, Green, and Terzian, our outside law firm with respect to the Groveson litigation.
Mitch Grovers.
Yes.
We're still litigating that?
Well, this is part of the settlement of what was called the compliance part of that case. The individual claims that Mr. Groveson went to trial late last year. We prevailed on all of them, only to have the court issue an order for a new trial, that order is now on appeal, so, yes.
Daniel, he left LA, went to San Francisco, left San Francisco, came back to LA,
Right.
and continued to file lawsuits along the way.
No, just this last one,
The last one.
which we're dealing with today.
But he hasn't been employed with LA for a number of years.
Correct.
So what this sets forth is a amendment to the code. I didn't, workplace free discrimination, I thought we already had that. Workplace free discrimination point.
Yes, council member, there are sections in the administrative code that very generally lay out the city's anti-discrimination policy on sexual orientation issues. They were put in the administrative code in response to Mr. Grobeson's first lawsuit that was settled back in 1993, which required the city to codify the policy and complaint procedure aspects of that first settlement that the city agreed to implement. As part of his second lawsuit, he complained that the city had not met all of the policy and practice terms of the first settlement in 1993, including fully codifying what the city's policy was. The sections that are in the administrative code are pretty generally stated, and his complaint was it really didn't set forth what the city policy is that also was enacted or set forth in the mayoral directive back in about 94 or 95 pursuant to that settlement. They were just very different.
So the recommendation now is to do what?
The recommendation now is to adopt, or I guess put before the city council for its consideration, adoption of this ordinance, which will, in a much more detailed fashion, mirror or reflect the mayoral directive that was issued in June with revisions to the city's policy pursuant to that settlement, and also it will mirror reflect the complaint procedure that is shortly to be issued by Personnel Department pursuant to the mayor's directive.
Under the terms of the settlement agreement, the city agreed to place before the city council for its consideration this ordinance. It's not buying the city council to adopt it, obviously.
So there's a policy, and then there's the complaint procedures. So
Yes.
it's a two-pronged.
Yes.
Okay. Number 3?
So clarify again that in the settlement, one of the agreements was to put this before the council.
That's correct.
But the council, therefore, under our jurisdiction, have the right to vote it up or down, approve it or not.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think as a practical matter that both the Personnel Department and the City Attorney's Office are in agreement that adoption would probably be a good idea.
Yeah.
But
of
there's no
course.
obligation and there's no commitment
Yeah.
to that. I'm sure it's the council's decision.
Mhm. And the reason why I wanted to make sure that we understood that is because there is something called a balance of power. And the council is a legislative body, and when something's put before us, whether it's recommended or not, strongly, weakly, or whether we're trying to figure out language on the fly, the bottom line is at the end of the moment comes where the council will, through a vote, decide if it's adopted or not.
Right, and we were very cognizant of that in negotiating the settlement.
Okay, thank you.
All right, recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, please.
Councilmember, before we go in, and Chair, before we go into number 4, since we are now comprised of a committee of 2, I was wondering if we can get a consensus on other items, just so the matters can go as reports to council.
Number 1, we approved. Recommendation for approval. 2 was continued. 5 is continued. So get your recommendation for approval number 1.
Yep, concur.
Thank you much. Item number 4, Personnel Department Quarterly Report for the period May 3rd through July 29th, 2008, relative to a tally on the number of city employees filling vacancies in proprietary departments through transfers from council-controlled departments.
All right.
Good afternoon, Shannon Pasquale, Personnel Department. This is our second quarterly report regarding the number of transfers that have taken place from the council control departments to the proprietary departments. This is a period from May 3rd, 2008 to July 29th, 2008, in which the Personnel Department reviewed and approved 78 transfers. Given the 2 reports that we were asked to provide, we've approved a total of 153 transfers.
What does that tell us?
Tells you that the proprietary departments are hiring a lot of people.
And they probably, some of them pay more for the same work.
Water and power, 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 water and power. Harbor Airport, water and power.
They don't want to be left out.
A lot of water and power. It would really shows that what they, from the department and their salary to department and their salary. That would really tell us a picture.
That information is materializes before they transfer, right? They don't transfer blindly. They tend to transfer after they've been made an offer and agreed to work
Correct.
there.
And you can, for the most part, pretty much assume that any job that they're going over to Water and Power is going to pay them more.
But the interesting thing about it, because we have a smitten of other departments that they're going to, that would also allow us to see in real time what some of the differences are with other departments, not just Water and Power.
Well, if you look at Harbor, you said Harbor Airport, water and power, you really analyze the report between the harbor, water and power, and the airport. There's a couple of lasers, but the vast majority are water and power, a few airport and harbor. And other than 3 lasers, there are all those 3 departments, proprietary departments.
But by far, the first place winner on recruiting people out of the city is DWP. Then a distant second looks like the airports. Then you got the harbor falling behind them.
Like a library, going from a library clerk typist to a clerk typist to the harbor. Recs and parks, heavy duty truck operator to water and power. Be interesting to see how that salary increased from Rex and Park, heavy duty truck operator to water power, heavy duty truck operator, driving the same thing. From Rex and Park to water power.
Is that information available or not available to the public?
The DWP salaries are available to the public. It's on their website. We have information as well. Tom can correct me, but on average, you're looking anywhere between 10 to 60% difference in salary.
And you don't know what level they're at.
Don't know level they're at. We don't necessarily know what step they're at in the 5-step range and where they're going to go to water and power and what that's going to equal. But
So all we know is categorically where they're going, not necessarily what salary they've been offered specifically.
Correct.
But sometimes they'll go from a department where they're a supervisor to a new department where they're not a supervisor and make more money. That's happened a number of times.
That happens very frequently in the city when you go from the city to water and power. You can go, I mean, there's some instances where we've seen that a person has gone 2 levels down
That still makes more money than being 2 levels up somewhere else.
Correct. And not have the responsibility to have to supervise anyone.
So what are you all still doing?
You got their application, they haven't gone yet.
Process is slow.
I keep asking that question.
No, that's a compliment. I thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for hanging in there. Yes.
Yes, yeah. Their police department, the water and power management analyst too. A few ESP.
The other thing I wanted to point out is that I think you might be aware of the fact that Water and Power received 660 new positions as part of their 2008-2009 budget, and they have about an additional 300 positions that they did not fill from their 07-08 budget. So they're going to be looking in the next 10 to 12 months to try to fill probably close to 1,000 positions, which
That's
is
all part of that build out for the water and power system.
correct. And you're probably going to see, additional people leaving city departments to go over to Water and Power to fill some of those positions.
That's what happens.
So we haven't seen the end of this influx.
No.
No, and I think you'll continue to see that this is going to probably be consistent for the next 10 to 12 months. Maybe not to the extent that we've seen, but it's not going to stop.
So the feeder pools, the departments that hire, once they get in there, then take the test. And most of these are testing for other departments. They don't do a lateral, they have to take a test to get in.
Some of them are tests, some of them are transfers. These, what you're seeing here, are straight transfers. So it doesn't really completely represent the number of employees that are leaving the city departments, because they do take exams and are going to be picked up off of eligible lists, which will not be reflected on this document here.
So the numbers will be greater.
Yes.
For those.
Correct.
Okay, good information. John?
It's free country, I guess.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, that'll be a note file. And that concludes our agenda. Thank you very much.
Public comment? Although there's no.
Public comment? We don't do public comment.
Okay.
Got a public card.
All right, thank you.
No cards filled out on general public comment.
We don't solicit it, no.
Solicitation was notice of the meeting. There are some people up there who put their number at City Hall as a telephone, but I don't think it's a requirement. And, the vast majority of their people are field crews, so they're not really going to be available anyway, but. No, it's just, for all intents and purposes, they don't exist within the city of Los Angeles. Salaries, phone systems, IT systems, you name it.
Hey,
How's it going?
what's going on? What's bumming? A little busy.
It's been a perfect day. We got through the ERC in under a half hour, and we got through with this.
Did you really?
In under 15 minutes.
I didn't even know there was an ERC meeting today. Is that like bright and early